In this video, we're going to have a look at the sum function. The sum function adds values. It allows you to add these values from individual cells, across cell references, cell ranges, or a combination of all of these. It's a widely used function within Excel. It's very easy to do once you understand the foundations. So we're going to break them foundations down for you in this video. So what are the benefits of using the sum function? It's very efficient. It allows you to add the range of cells significantly faster than it would do to type them out. It's very accurate, so you don't have no typos or any errors. And if you select a range of data, it will dynamically update every time you amend that data. The brilliant thing is it also works across multiple sheets. So this is a brilliant tool to have in your formula and functions arsenal. So what we are going to do today in this lesson, I'm going to talk you through loads of different ways that you can use a sum function or how you can activate the formula within Excel with ease, and I'm going to break down step by step what is going on in Excel and what you can see on your screen. So first, let's have a look. So what we need to do to start is to have a range of data to practice with. Here, I've got a data range based on types of pens and the colours. So we've got a number of columns: sell price, buy price, sales volume, cost, turnover and profit. This is an ample amount of data to practice with. So let's start with the easiest ones. Firstly, we're going to go into cell E23. We're going to use the quick key for the sum function. So all we do in the cell where we want to return the value, we press Alt and equals at the same time, and it has selected, using the Excel IntelliSense, it's selected the whole range, which when I've looked at that range, that is exactly what I want. We can see in the cell, it's got sum within brackets E2 to E22 with the colons in the middle, which is telling me that it's going to use that full range of data. You can also see the formula up in the formula bar. And just above the formula, you can actually see that Excel is showing you all the individual values within the cells that it's going to add up. So you press enter and it's returned that value. If we want to go back in to reactivate that formula to see what Excel's doing, we just hover over the cell, press F2, and we can see the blue rectangle is wrapped around all the cell range that we want to add up. It's also inside of the cell E23. We can see in blue, in the blue font, E2 to E22. The next option here, inside of on the formulas tab, we can see the auto sum here. If we hover over with the mouse, it indicates the quick key that we have just used. So we can also press that, and that will pick up the cell range for column F that we want. We go back over that and press F2. See how we've moved along one column. Now the formula reads F2 to F22. Colons in the middle are telling you this is a range of data. Let's move on to the next cell for turnover. If we go back to the home bar, we've also, inside of editing, we've got the auto sum here. You can click that, and as you see now that there's some data to the left of the cell, it's assuming we want to select that as the range. All we need to do, we can either use our cursor or our mouse, and we can select that range of data that we want. Once we've done that, we can see within the cell and the formula bar G2 to G21. We press enter, return that value, and now we're on to the profit column. In this column, we are going to type the formula out. So we're going to do this a few different ways, and we're going to step by step talk through what Excel is doing. Firstly, to tell Excel we want to do a formula, we need to type equals. Once we've typed equals, we can then start typing the name of that formula or function. So we're obviously doing the sum, so if we type sum, once we've typed sum, Excel will offer you a few different options to see which function you want to use. So the first way you can do this is to press tab. Once we press tab, we've typed out the full name of the function, we can move on with using our formula. That is the first way to start the formula. The second, if we just delete this bracket, we can go into this list here where we can see sum. We can click on that with our mouse, and that also activates the formula. So that's the second option. Alternatively, if we go back to the word sum, And now we can actually type in the bracket ourselves. So we can press Shift and 9, that will add the bracket in. So there are a number of different ways if you are going to type out your formula of what your options are. What we need to do now we've activated the formula, we've got the bracket, Excel is telling us that we need to enter the number that we need or to select the range of data. So what we're going to do, we're going to add profit and we're going to select from H2 all the way down to H21. We close that off with a bracket, we press enter, and that is added up that range of data for us. So let's look at another option for that. So we go back in, we can delete that formula, and we'll look at a different way. So equals sum, let's add that bracket in. This time we're going to type the cell references. So we're going to do H2 and we're going to add in the colon. So the shift, the semicolon key will get you the colon. And now we're going to put in the end reference, which is H21. Once we've done that, we can see the blue font in the cell, see the formula up in the formula bar, and we can see the blue rectangle around the range in column H. We close that off with a bracket, which is Shift and 0, press enter, and there you are. So we've got a selection of different ways that you can practice to use this formula very quickly, very easy. It's one of them that is good to understand all the ways to use this formula, and it will build them foundational knowledge, and then you can expand. So let's have a look at something different. So now we've added the full range of data within the column. What if we just wanted to get the volume for the black pens? So as we can see, all the pens color are in a color order. So what we can do is type equals sum over here, and then what we're going to do is just select the top 2 rows of the sales volumes because they're both black. We can close that off and press enter, and there we go. We've selected a partial element of the range. Go back over and press F2. We can see the blue rectangle and the blue font in the cell. Now let's see if we can select the blue. So it looks like blue is starting from row 4 and going to row 10. So we can type equals sum. We can go to the sales volume from E4 all the way down to E10. As you can see, when I was using my cursor, as I was moving the cursor down in the formula bar and also in the cell, you can see the cell reference changing until we've got the range that we want. We can type the bracket, and that has now told Excel we're going to end that formula. Press enter. If we want to go back over and press F2, we can see that that's selected the sales volume for all the blue pens. Finally, let's do the red pen. So equals sum. Let's go down to the bottom 3 rows of the range. We select them and press enter. So there we are. What we've done is we've selected elements of the range of data to add up within our sum formula. Finally, what we can also use is something that I don't use very often, because this is where you can generally sometimes make mistakes. In all the others, we've selected the data that we've wanted. This is where we are going to type out the sum, but we're actually going to use numerical numbers above. So we're going to total the volume from the black, blue and red pens. So we type 671, 1264, and then 955, and then we can close that off with a bracket and press enter, and the cell has returned the full value. If we press F2, we can see the sum that we've added in numbers, very similar to using the addition formula, but I would avoid using this unless you was quite clear about what you're adding up. So that's how you can approach stuff from running through columns. So now we move down to this section where we would like to add up the range of cells across the row. So we can start with the alt and equals, the quick key. As you can see in the formula bar and in the cell, we've got the range B33 to H33, just as you would do with a column. The row function, the sum function across rows works identically. So if we can then go into here, we can also go into the formula bar, click auto sum. It's going to pick up the formula in exactly the same way. We've got the sum function going across row 34, adding the range of data that we need. We press enter. We can also now move back to the home bar and go under the editing tab, we can click the auto sum. This time, again, it's gone up the column. What we need to do is change the range that it's selecting. We're going to select from B35 all the way to H35. Press enter. Finally, we can also type the sum function, sum, with the shift and open bracket. We can select the range with our mouse, and we can close that off with the shift and 0. Press enter. So there you go. We've now run through a number of options that you've got to come down the column, how we can select partial range, how we can type that formula out and be in more control, or how we can create or select a small range of cells within a larger table, and then also how we can come across rows. I'm going to show you two more options that are generally used when you're looking at larger volumes of data. So in this one, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look. If we want to add up the sales volume in this range of data, this data is 961 rows in length. So if we want to quickly get the sales volume, we can type equals sum. And this time, what we're going to do, rather than type any numbers or select a range, we're just going to click on column E. And when we've done that, we can close that off with a bracket and press enter. Let's go back into that cell and see what is actually happening. So what we've done is you can see the sum function is activated, and then within inside there, the blue font and the blue rectangle is actually adding up the whole of the column. So we can see E:E. So that means it's just adding up all the values in column E. You need to be very careful with this to make sure you've got no other data below, or one of the things that I see happening quite often is that someone would have already gone in here and added up the full range of data, and they've got the total at the bottom. You've gone in and then added up the sales volume, and what that's actually doing is it's adding up all the volume plus the total at the bottom. So you need to be very careful when you're using this, when you're adding up columns. You just need to be very cautious. So let's have a look at the same. If we was going to go horizontally in this, we would need to do, it's exactly the same as a column, but we're going to go across the row. So if we would like to add up the total of all the blue pens across the 52 weeks of the year, we type equals sum, and that open the bracket with shift and 9. We're going to click on row 5. We're going to close that off with a bracket, shift and 0, and press enter. I'm going to back into that cell and press F2 to reactivate the formula so you can see what's happening. You can see we're starting with the sum function, but this time we've got 5:5, and that means it's selecting the whole of row 5. Again, just like with the column, you need to make sure there is no totals at the end of your data. As you can see within this, there is not. So you just need to be a bit more cautious when you're using this kind of sum function across a column or a row. Sorry, down a column. You need to be more cautious when you are adding up the total column or the total row. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. In my next video, I'm going to be looking at the SUMIF function, which once you've learnt this and you've got your SUMIF, you are on your way to expanding your foundational knowledge inside of Excel. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and see me in the next one.